They are relics from an ancient time we will never know. Reminders of our mysterious past we seek to understand.
Your world generally consists of the known, whereas for the archaeological past, it's unfamiliar, it's unknown.
These awesome monuments left by forgotten peoples of long ago will forever tantalize us with the questions they force us to ask. Who built them? Why? And how? And what do these clues from the past tell us about ourselves?
Mysteries, there's no shortage here.
Our ancient past and its mysteries beckons to us from every corner on Earth. Man has established a foothold in the most unlikely locations. From tropical ocean lagoons in the far-off Pacific Ocean to remote cliff tops in Arizona, human existence has left an indelible mark. What knowledge and power did ancient people have to build up entire civilizations in these far-off and often inhospitable places? It is these secrets we seek to unlock for what we think may help us understand our 21st century lives.
It's a detective story that you have to go back and reconstruct what happened based on the little remnants of things that are left behind.
Archaeologists take us on an alluring journey back in time. Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, the Nazca Lines of Peru, and a mysterious ruin in the South Pacific. By revealing to us remnants of things that were once great, these scientists confront some very puzzling mysteries about our past.
If we could step back in time 1,000 years and somehow be secretly watching events, what kind of things could we see?
We're studying things that are incredibly foreign to everything that we know.
As they roam the planet looking for clues to our past, these intrepid time travelers are like their early counterparts, the rogue adventurer archaeologists of the last century, who uncovered for the world our most famous archaeological mysteries. It was often difficult for these explorers to imagine a primitive culture constructing such immense monuments. That was the case for a British mapmaker who happened across a mysterious site off a tiny island in Micronesia in the year 1886.
There are some interesting ruins whose origin is involved in the greatest obscurity. Doubtless there existed here a fortified town inhabited by a folk of superior civilization. Some of the stones are about 10 feet in length and worked into 6 faces, no doubt brought from some civilized country.
It's called Nan Madol, the place between spaces. Here, in this shallow reef of the island of Pohnpei, in Micronesia, are the remnants of what was once a city of stone built entirely on water. Today, we know that the ancient island natives constructed Nan Madol. What we don't know is how they did it. It is one of the world's greatest and least examined archaeological mysteries. The remote island of Pohnpei lies 5,000 miles northeast of Australia, in the middle of the South Pacific. The 30 feet of annual rain that pours down on parts of the island make it one of the wettest places on Earth. Here, more than 1,500 years ago, ancient Pohnpeians took on an immense feat, building a megalithic ceremonial center. They first constructed over 90 small artificial islands by stacking large basalt logs into retaining walls and filling in the massive structures with tons of coral rubble. On top of these islets, they then built temples and noble residences, transforming the lagoon into a floating city connected by canals. It was an opulent place worthy of ancient kings and priests. For an entire millennium, these stone walls echoed with the sounds of elaborate religious rituals, tributes to the rulers and their gods. Today, the temples are silent. But Nan Madol remains a building feat of such magnitude that it continues to bewilder scientists who study it.
Every time I come here, I have things that I need to learn or things that I need to find out more.
Rufino Mauricio is a native of Pohnpei and the first from his country to be trained as an archaeologist. His visit of Nan Madol begins with the best preserved part of the complex, Nan Duas, once an ancient cemetery.
This is the main entrance to the Nan Duas, what I believe to be a tomb complex. The wall is approximately 30 feet high and it's rather thick. As you can see, some of these basalt stones, very dense, are very big. This one itself is probably 12 feet long. There is a larger one on the other side that is about 18 feet long. The basaltic material is very dense, so each of these stones weigh in excess of 1,000 pounds, probably tons.
Rufino and his colleagues have calculated that Nan Madol required the moving and stacking of 825,000 tons of building material. To add to the mystery, the closest source for the basalt used to build Nan Madol lies over 30 miles across water on the other side of the island. The rock face here is unique, composed of naturally shaped columns that can be pried loose. Rufino has challenged a team of island men to test one theory of how the stones of Nan Madol were cut and moved.
These large basalt columns were heated, and then they pried the columns out of this outcrop. When they felt that the stones have been heated, then they tossed the water on the stones.
The cold water cracks the hot basalt prisms loose.
Then they try to separate the individual columns from the outcrop, so they push it right out.
But the more puzzling question is how the ancients moved the quarried stones 30 miles to Nan Madol.
This is a small version of a raft made from bamboo that was probably used to transport these materials.
Bamboo is known for its sturdiness and buoyancy. But will it hold up to the mass of volcanic rock?
These young men here will try to get a small basalt prism, which is about 200, 300 pounds, lash it to a pole, and then place it on a bamboo raft to see whether it will float or not.
This is what it takes to quarry and move just a single log of basalt stone. And Nan Madol is made up of hundreds of thousands of these pieces of heavy stone, most of them at least 5 times the weight we see here. A well-known myth offers this solution to the mystery of how the ancients built it, that magicians used supernatural powers to fly the logs in through the air and stack them up. Even a scientist like Rufino Mauricio has a hard time discounting magic.
The blend between magic and science is kind of a very blurry one. What is it meant by the stones were flown from one place to another? We will continue to wonder about this.
One of the more intriguing mysteries of Nan Madol is the legend of an underwater city that lay in the open ocean just beyond the outer edges of the complex. The ancient residents of Nan Madol believed that when they died, their souls swam to this city beneath the ocean surface that existed as a link between life and the afterlife. Amencio Imperium is a state historian and avid scuba diver who enjoys cracking the surface to some of Nan Madol's deeper mysteries.
So you go down to about 40 feet, and you will see this huge, tall column standing, all covered with coral. And then you will see another column which is also standing. And further down, you will see the third column that's standing there.
Standing columns underwater, geological anomalies, or man-made structures. Previous attempts to raise the columns out of the water to see what lies under the coral growth have so far failed, leaving speculation wide open. There is, however, no discounting the location of these columns right at the edge of Nan Madol.
That's what the legend has it, that these columns were put there as a marker or symbol of the gateway towards the underwater city.
Scientific proof of an underwater city would require sonar, deep diving, and core drilling equipment. Until then, the mysterious connection between the columns of coral and the Nan Madol complex on the surface endures. Scientists do know that by 1500 AD, Nan Madol had reached its peak, a flourishing ceremonial center spread out across the 92 islets. In their stone complex, the ruling dynasty enjoyed a rich life, accepting tribute from the ordinary citizens on Pohnpei who lived to serve them. But Pohnpei history tells of a dark end to the glory of Nan Madol, that as time passed, the rulers began to abuse their power and that their subjects rose up to overthrow them. 500 years ago, a new dynasty took over. Nan Madol was abandoned forever, leaving behind only obscure myths and superstitions.
Many tombs is believed to contain the living spirit of the ancestors, so most of Pohnpeians will not approach this place at night. I continue to be scared every time I come here. One of these days I will get over my fear, but so far not yet.
Despite its dark secrets, Nan Madol continues to inspire people like Rufino Mauricio.
It's a place of learning for me. It's a place that I respect, and it's a place that represents what the Pohnpeians were like and continue to be like. People who can do great things, I think.
If Nan Madol remains an enigma to the world, It's partly because of its distant location in the far-off Pacific Ocean. Many famous archaeological sites eluded discovery for centuries, entirely covered up until excavations revealed their grandeur. Aztec pyramids in Mexico, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, Machu Picchu in Peru. It's enough to make us wonder, what other archaeological marvels lie hidden out there? This lure of buried treasure drives one archaeologist on a tireless hunt through the Andean highlands of Peru. UCLA archaeologist Chip Stanish is on a quest for ruins he thinks he's located from maps and aerial photos. He spends most of his time tracking links to the past in the barren region around Lake Titicaca. This is an archaeological frontier. Until recently, these highlands were off limits, controlled by a terrorist group called the Shining Path.
To the best of my knowledge, no professional archaeologist has ever worked up in this particular area, so it's all new to me.
But conquering new territory is the first step in Chip's archaeological treasure hunt.
And that's to simply drive around, walk around, just to see what's out there. Found a couple pieces, but doesn't mean anything. I love the reconnaissance part. That's really the most fun. Saragnani. You never know what's over the next hill. You find one site, you get all excited, something new no one else has ever found. Ooh. And then you get to go run over the next hill and find another one, and that's really the fun part. Let's go over here. Why not? Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires. ¿Cómo está?
Chip never leaves home without his stash of coca leaves, as common as aspirin, and sold in most markets in Peru.
Coca's real important here, and it's just a sign of respect, and it's a way in which you start conversations.
Coca.
Hey.
Gracias.
¿Por qué? That's just the way it's done here. It's just a good courtesy.
The altitude here is close to 14,000 feet, so taking just one step causes heavy breathing. But Chip doesn't let it slow him down.
You have to be able to say you did the hill. You can't leave without doing the whole hill.
Chip scours these hills for clues to one of Peru's many lost civilizations, a culture called the Pucara. The Pucara ruled supreme here from 300 BC to 200 AD, 15 centuries before the mighty Inca. More than 2,000 years ago, the Pucara began building cities, villages, and temples across these Andean hilltops. Today, remnants of their mysterious past lie scattered across the highlands. It's these buried clues that Chip dreams of locating today.
Looking for potsherds in the bricks.
Pieces of ancient Pucara pottery lodged in contemporary mud walls become an enticing trail of clues.
So there's definitely a site here. And it's getting thicker as we get closer to where the most likely location of the site would be, so that's always a good sign. Yeah, here's something. Huh. Got a tomb. An ancient tomb. It's been looted. I can see the bones from here. Oh, yeah. Oh, here you go. We got a cemetery on the hill. Here's the pelvis. Some vertebrae.
Chip knows these bones are at least 800 years old.
There's probably a number of these up here. Oh yeah, the whole ridge top. Yeah. There was obviously an older person, a femur. Well, this is getting frustrating because if you have dead people, you have to have live people. Live people have to live somewhere. They have to have a big site somewhere. Right? We don't control it.
Will this crucial find lead Chip to the Pucara site he knows lies close by? Tracking ancient civilizations often leaves more questions than answers. Even the most studied places of mystery still hold on to their secrets. At Stonehenge in Great Britain, a century of scientific research can't fully explain how prehistoric people moved and lifted the massive stone blocks. The same goes for Easter Island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, where a primitive culture carved and raised these stone head sentinels that weighed on average 14 tons. Whether this is the work of ancient engineers or supernatural beings, we can continue to wonder. The possibilities are transfixing. For Doug Hill, grappling with these mysteries means a lot of grass to cut.
Other than these pesky little weeds that grow and get in the way, and they're hard to cut, but mowing can be a lot of fun on a nice mower.
Doug Hill is a former stonemason and tile contractor. In 1989, his well-to-do friend hired him to replicate Stonehenge on his land in Hunt, Texas, near San Antonio.
Your typical mason would not attempt to do something like this. It would take someone who was putting himself out on a limb, and that was me, and I did that.
Since Doug built it, the people have come, from all over and for all different reasons.
This is interesting place.
We've been out looking for things that we saw in the Texas guidebook. We decided to stop here, and we had a little difficulty finding it, but it was worth it.
Certainly is. I think it's mind-boggling. You just love to know how it all came about.
People from England have come, and they appreciate it and are very happy with it, and that pleases me. These arches are built out of cement, about an 1.5 to 2 inch thick layer. They're hollow, which you can hear there. When we were building this Stonehenge, I thought how the guys must have felt that we're working on a real Stonehenge, and I think that I felt some of the same feelings that they felt, because it was unusual.
Stonehenge 2 got so much attention that Doug couldn't resist adding some giant Easter Island heads. It put his sculpting skills to the test.
Noses are very hard to make. I spent more time on that nose than I think the rest of the thing all combined. It just didn't seem like it was enough, and then it'd get lopsided, and you look at it from the side and it had a hump in it or something. And then the nostrils, that's another story altogether there. But the ears are not so bad. There's nothing to them. But then when you have that 3D thing with the nose, that's tough. I'm real happy with this nose that I finally made, and I don't think there's a nicer nose around.
Noses and all, Doug Hill takes great pride in his creation.
I try to look over here every day and remember to do that. The days I look are when it's foggy, or the atmospheric conditions or the lighting conditions are unusual, and then I look and can appreciate something I haven't seen before.
For 4,000 years, the massive scale of the real Stonehenge has left us in awe. It's impossible to ignore the 13-foot stone blocks that tower above the landscape. But on the other side of the world, one of our most enduring archaeological wonders lies much closer to the ground. In southern Peru, a mystery of mythical proportions is etched on the desert floor. The Nazca lines remain the most puzzling messages ever left by man. More than 1,000 figures carved across 400 square miles of flat desert. The animal shapes and geometric figures can only be seen from the sky, yet they were laid across the desert by the Nazca civilization 1,500 years ago, long before humans could fly. Science has revealed much about the ancient people who made the lines, and even how they did it. But the great mystery still remains. Why? Why move tons of dirt and stone around on a desolate landscape? Many theories have been proposed. A course for ancient running races, a mirror of the night sky, runways for alien spacecraft.
We're stepping into a world that's very, very foreign to us, and the way people thought about things is very different than the way we think about things.
From the ground, the lines are like grooves raked across the desert floor.
The process to build the lines is actually fairly simple. The surface of the desert has this aggregation of microscopic organic material that we call desert varnish that's been built up over thousands and thousands of years. If you, for instance, take this rock that has this varnish on it, flip it around, the areas that haven't been exposed to air are a lot lighter than the rest. And so removing these, you actually create this contrast between the lighter center of the lines and the darker color of the desert surface.
The Nazca began carving lines in the desert around 100 BC and continued for nearly 1,000 years. But the Nazca were not the first to practice this artistic tradition. Canadian archaeologist Hendrik van Geesegem has been excavating a site that predates the Nazca by 400 years, the ancient home to a people called the Paracas. The view from this Paracas settlement offers an intriguing sight.
The figure that's represented on the side of that hill bears resemblances to a being that we find on Paracas pots that we refer to as the oculate being, literally the being with eyes, because it's got big globulous eyes. It's built right on the face of a cliff, so it was meant to be seen by people going through the valley. The function could have been a territorial one, saying this is where we're at, this is where we're standing. If you pass through here, you know who you have to deal with.
400 years later, the Nazca would mark their territory with the giant earth carvings we know today. At the same time, the Nazca were also digging a complex system of aqueducts that allowed them to control the flow of water. The aqueducts were key to desert survival, so the ancient Nazca would use them to regularly appeal to their water gods.
Gracias te damos, Señor. Gracias te damos, Señor.
14 centuries later, the role of the aqueducts lives on. Nazca farmers still use them to irrigate their fields today. The importance of the aqueducts to the Nazca people does suggest a link to the lines they carved in the desert, but a definite connection remains elusive. Scholars have found that some of the Nazca lines point directly to these aqueducts. And geologists have recently discovered subterranean water sources right underneath some of the geometric carvings, a clue that the lines may have served as water markers. It's a compelling theory, but only holds for a small number of the Nazca lines, showing just how mysterious they continue to be.
They are fostering a mystery that seems unresolved and seems almost unresolvable. And we're trying to understand, and we have good clues about what the lines are about, but we really don't know. It involves a variety of things that in the mind of a Nazca person would have made a lot of sense. To us, it's a little bit more complicated.
Thousands of miles north, in a place as environmentally challenging as Peru, lie the spectacular remains of another thriving desert community, the Anasazi Indians of the Four Corners region in the American Southwest. The Anasazi civilization stretched out across some 60,000 square miles that join what is today New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and Colorado. Throughout this vast region, the Anasazi constructed cities of sandstone, ingeniously built to withstand the unforgiving conditions of the desert. Yet after centuries of thriving here, this highly sophisticated culture disappeared, almost at once. Why did they leave their magnificent desert dwellings? What drove them out? The mystery begins at Chaco Canyon, once the center of the Anasazi civilization. Here, starting in 850 AD, the Anasazi began to build the most impressive structures found in North America. They are called the Great Houses, large complexes of multiple-story buildings that contained up to 400 rooms. For 300 years, ancient people on trade missions or pilgrimages would periodically gather at the Chaco Center from the far reaches of the Anasazi Empire. In Chaco's subterranean Great Kivas, they would come together for religious ceremonies.
And you can imagine impersonators coming in here representing the rain gods. The color of the costumes and everything must have been phenomenal. And you know, you have the ash fires burning and the smell of pinon smoke. And maybe if the structure was not roofed, you could see the stars and the constellations passing by. I mean, I think it would be awesome.
The Anasazi watched the skies closely, acquiring great knowledge of the movement of the stars. The largest of Chaco Canyon's Great Kivas has precise solstice and equinox alignments.
It's solstice in July, when the sun rises behind me here on the mesa. The rays first come through this door here and strike a small niche on the opposite side of the kiva.
In a sandstone cliff at Chaco Canyon, an Anasazi artist painted an exploding star. Scientists have dated the image to July 1054, right after a supernova explosion occurred.
Everything they do is class. These guys are artisans on every level. The masonry, the turquoise, the building of other things, the communication networks, the engineering that goes into it.
To build Pueblo Bonito, Chaco's largest site, an army of laborers had to quarry and move more than 100 million pounds of sandstone.
Pueblo Bonito, we estimate something in the neighborhood of 25,000 to 50,000 trees were used just for construction of Pueblo Bonito. Now that's a pretty staggering, number.
More mystifying is how the Anasazi transported so much wood from forests up to 60 miles away.
We don't know exactly how these things were brought in, but we do know, one, that they never touched the ground. These logs that we see in the ceilings and so forth in the architecture are pristine. There's not a mark on them. They're not dragging them. They're not rolling them. They are carrying them by hand.
Archaeologists believe the Anasazi hauled in entire forests on specially constructed roads, some as long as 200 miles. What's left of these roads indicate they were like avenues, up to 30 feet wide, leading into Chaco Canyon. The roads even snaked over cliffs where the Anasazi carved masonry steps into the bedrock to get over them. Because the roads all led to Chaco, it's thought they served as pilgrimage routes to the ceremonial center of the Anasazi world.
If you're entering the place, you come up these avenues and you're going, wow, look at this, I'm in the big town.
By 1100 AD, the Chaco Anasazi sphere of influence stretched out hundreds of miles, uniting a complex network of villages. But it was not to last.
You have these magnificent ruins, like Chaco Canyon, that are truly beautiful and manifestations of great architecture and creativity and persistence of people living on the landscape. And then the mystery is that they all disappear.
Jonathan Haas has explored hundreds of small canyons in the Southwest, looking for clues as to why the Anasazi disappeared.
Archaeologists have recorded more than 50,000 Anasazi sites, representing tens of thousands of people. The Chaco system itself incorporated tens of thousands of people. And then if you multiply that by this whole Four Corners Colorado Plateau area, you're probably looking at close to 100,000 people.
Why did such a large population completely desert the place they'd lived in prosperously for so long? It's one of the Southwest's greatest mysteries.
The disappearance of the Anasazi starts at Chaco Canyon. So you have this flourishing great culture centered in Chaco Canyon, and then by 1150, they all leave.
While the centralized Chaco system collapsed, Anasazi tribes throughout the rest of the Four Corners region continued to thrive. But the harsh climate of the region would eventually seal their fate. Pieces of wood from southwestern sites paint an accurate picture of the environment centuries ago.
One of the primary tools of dating is tree ring dating of pieces of wood that you find in the Southwest. It's lying around, they're using it for timber. Let me just show you for a minute how tree ring dating works. Every year, a tree will put down a ring. And during a wet year, a tree will put down a big fat ring. And then during a dry year, a tree will put down a little skinny ring, like that. And then you have maybe another dry year around here, and another wet year, big fat wet year around here. So that gives you a record of the environment when that tree was living. But then you take another tree, and you see that that tree has 2 dry years right here. And so it's representing those 2 years, and then a fat ring coming around here, and then another dry year around here, and a big fat wet ring around here. And what you're doing is you're lining up the tree ring widths over long periods of time, so that Southwestern archaeologists have been able to take this environmental record, and by matching up 20, 30-year periods of time, they're able to push that tree ring record back now. It goes back more than 3,000 years of matching up dry, dry, wet, 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 dry, 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 dry years over a long period of time, so that we have a tree ring record of a millennium.
Scientists know that a series of droughts hit the Southwest a century after Chaco's demise. With little rain came competition for resources, triggering a wave of intertribal violence.
We found headless bodies and bodiless heads, where you'll have stacked bodies in kivas, where it looks like the people of that village were rounded up, put in the kivas, and then the kiva was torched.
Warfare escalated, sweeping across the Anasazi world.
What warfare does is it causes you to pick defensive locations for your sites. You pick strategic locations where you can see from your site to your neighbor's site and to another neighbor, so that you weave together this defensive network.
Jonathan Haas has agreed to take us to one of these defensive Anasazi sites, hidden deep in a canyon in northern Arizona, a place called Quetzal.
The canyons are, at best, really inaccessible. It is never easy to get in these canyons. It's never easy to move around these canyons. This is where I traditionally get lost, and we're lost, so okay, we're back on trail. Now, as you come around the corner, okay, you can look now. There's Quetzal. It's the greatest site I know of in the entire Southwest. It looks like it was abandoned yesterday. Let's go ahead and go up and take a look and see what it was like for the residents of Quetzal. As you go up the ladder, it's interesting to see, as you're sort of clinging to the face of the rock, that the hand and toe holds that the original occupants used parallel the ladder. And you can see a whole series of little hand and toe holds going straight up, which is the way they would have come. They didn't have a nice ladder leading up into it.
Construction on this 160-room defensive post began around the year 1270, only to be abandoned 20 years later. Walking along the edge of Quetzal, it's easy to see just how defensible the site is.
Your warring enemies come up, and all you have to do is fling the rocks down, wang them in the head, and you're going to keep people out of here. It's a perfect defensive strategy.
But living at Quetzal, so high up off the ground, was just as dangerous as an enemy attack.
They're weighing the danger of living in a place like this versus the threat by outside people who are going to attack, steal your corn, burn your rooms, take your children, take your women. You're weighing those, and ultimately they're making the decision to move into and take pretty extraordinary measures to defend themselves.
This defense strategy relied on one key element: communication with other sites. To view other Allied cliff dwellings, residents of Quetzal would scramble up toeholds to scale the rock face. Connected by line of sight, posts like Quetzal deep in the canyon were linked up with dwellings on the outside.
It's a very integrated, closely knit community of sites, and they're all intervisible with one another. So you can see from one to the next, to the next, to the next, and they can signal, they can communicate back and forth.
Using smoke or reflective stones to communicate across the valleys and canyons, the entire Allied system could quickly learn of an enemy attack on one site and deploy a defensive force.
They form a defensive system that is integrated and ultimately coherent, and when one part of it falls, you can see how the whole system collapses.
By the year 1280, life was getting tougher for the Anasazi, holed up in places like Quetzal.
1280, 1281, the warfare's still going on, the environment's terrible at this point. And somehow, somewhere in the course of those next 4, 5, 6 years, somebody gives up. And at that point, not one site has to go, all the sites have to go. And so it's like wildfire sweeping across the Southwest. Boom, 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 boom. And everybody goes because they've pushed it too far.
By 1300, the Anasazi had all left the Four Corners region. An entire civilization of architects and engineers, astronomers and artists, scattered to the winds.
The abandonment doesn't mean at all the fall of a civilization. The Anasazi culture as a whole, if you will, was simply moved and continued to thrive elsewhere. What you look at the Southwest is the triumph of success. There is a romance to archaeology. There's an inherent quality of mystery to it. And there is the Indiana Jones aspect of archaeology, that you're sort of out doing adventure and finding, ancient lost treasures.
Chip Stanish can smell a lost treasure in these Andean hills. The burial ground he found earlier indicates that a site lies close by, but daylight is fading. There's not much time left to find it.
Okay, so we're picking up some pottery here. Not a lot, but we're actually getting some of the mica tempered stuff, and that's the Pucara.
And suddenly, Chip's long hunt pays off.
Here's another. Oh!
Ah, damn.
This is nice. It's not fancy, but it's incised. And it has these incisions that are very, very characteristic Pucara. And it's rare. This was a fancy vessel.
It's a good sign that this ancient place was once a Pucara religious site.
This looks like a little temple area. And I don't want to use that word too loosely, but it is not a domestic residence. It's something more than just some living space. Now, as I'm looking over there, I see some spectacular buildings. They're certainly not Pucara, but they kind of look Inca.
From just these few scattered clues, Chip can quickly assess his find.
It's a Pucara site. They were living here, we know that. Living here from 300 BC to about maybe 300 AD. Then we have a big Inca occupation. We know that because there's plenty of Inca pottery, and we have stone walls that look very Inca. It's been a good day. We found the Pucara site on the road. Not the big massive temple that I would like, but you can't find those all the time. But we did find a good Pucara site with some fancy architecture. The sites are up there, the small villages are up there. We have Inca roads, we have Pucara sites, colonies. Yeah, this is, when we systematically survey this, we're gonna have quite a nice story to tell.
At day's end, Chip Standish is one step closer to unlocking some of these mysteries of our past.
We're doing it in the remote corners of the world where civilizations flourished so many centuries and millennia ago that it offers a completely different view of the world for people to sort of peek in at.
These discoveries are a reflection of what we as humans are capable of. Our strength and adaptability, our imagination and creativity, and our mortality.
The more we know, the less we know. The more questions we answer, the more question it brings up. So it's never really over.